This is an imaginary story. Which may never happen, but then again, may. About a perfect man who came from the sky and did only good. It tells of his twilight, when the great battles were over and the great miracles long since performed. Of how his enemies conspired against him, and of that final war in the snowblind wastes beneath the northern lights. Of the women he loved, and of the choice he made between them. Of how he broke his most sacred oath, and how finally all the things he had were taken from him, save for one. It ends with a wink. It begins in a quiet Midwestern town, one summer afternoon in the quiet Midwestern future. Away in the big city, people still sometimes glance up hopefully from the sidewalks, glimpsing a distant speck in the sky. But no, it's only a bird, only a plane. Superman died 10 years ago. This is an imaginary story. Aren't they all?
I never got Superman, and my reasons probably sound familiar to fans of the character. He's too good, he's not relatable, he's overpowered. In essence, he was too perfect. With his ability to fly, super strength, invincibility, and flawless moral character, the only thing he lacked was complexity. Superman's greatest villain was caricature, and was often portrayed as one of two extremes: hopeful, inspiring savior, or aggressive, unstoppable force of malice. However, the heart of a character is found in that in-between. We discover who they are in the quiet moments, making a larger-than-life character feel human. And for roughly 34 years, Silver Age readers had those moments with Superman. But modernity waits for no man, no, not even one of steel. The modern age of comics had dawned, pulling DC into darker, more mature territory. With the Silver Age on borrowed time and a reboot on its way, writer Alan Moore was recruited to complete Superman's story once and for all, to bid farewell to the Man of Tomorrow, as he was relegated to the Man of Yesterday. The result was a cinematic comic event that sought to celebrate the character, yet retained a haunting sense of doom. It was clear, this was the end. Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow was published in 1986, but feels a lot like the stories of superheroes we tell today. It's steeped in years of lore, boasting moments of darkness that would make even Zack Snyder think twice. Ironically, in a story that relishes the character, the beginning makes it crystal clear that Superman is gone. Lois Lane has moved on, having married a man named Jordan Elliott and started a family with him. Her Superman days are not entirely behind her, though. She was the last person to see the Man of Steel before he disappeared, and agrees to an interview with her former employer, the Daily Planet, discussing her last memories of him. This acts as a framing device, allowing the reader to experience Superman's last days whilst Lois occasionally narrates and provides important asides. The likes of Lex Luthor, Brainiac, Bizarro, and Metallo make appearances, but the main antagonist remains elusive. The latter half of the story sees the Legion of Supervillains, a team from the 30th century, visit Lex Luthor in the present. However, the billionaire genius mind has been taken over by Brainiac, who inquires as to the meaning of the Legion's visit. Lightning Lord responds, according to legend, during these days Superman met his greatest foe in battle, and was no more. And as the roster slowly dwindles, including that of Superman's allies, the question becomes more pertinent. Well, who will end Superman? Finally, the hero comes face to face with Mr. Mitsizplik. I'm just going to call him Mr. M. The hero comes face to face with Mr. M, the villain behind the madness that had been driving the events of the story. He had essentially driven all the villains to their extremes, with Bizarro killing himself to truly become opposite of the alive Superman, Lex Luthor completely losing his humanity to the cold robotic Brainiac, and Kryptonite Man fulfilling his purpose, killing Krypto when the devoted animal sacrifices himself to take the villain down. By extension, Superman himself is pushed to his extremes. There are times of intense emotional distress, and I found myself really relating to the character in those quieter moments, after he sees so much go wrong around him. In particular, there's a scene where Superman is finally alone, save for Krypto. He's had to bring all of his closest friends to the Fortress of Solitude to keep them safe, as his villains continue pushing. In addition, the Legion of Superheroes from the 30th century visited him, and let on that his end was coming. With all of that on his shoulders, Superman retreats to his room for the night. The next morning, Lois Lane remarks he looked as if he'd been crying. And in that quiet moment, alone with his dog, the Man of Steel felt like me. He felt human. The next day, the villains lay siege to the Fortress of Solitude, but every single one falls short of defeating Superman. The one that comes closest is Mr. M, who transforms into an unsettling, monstrous form and stalks Superman and Lois through the halls. When they are discovered, Superman uses a Phantom Zone projector to send the villain there. However, Mr. M panics and tries to transport out of the projector's beam. He's too late and is torn in half between the two destinations. Superman, then, is indirectly responsible for Mr. M's death. He deems himself unworthy of being Superman, saying that no one has the right to kill, especially not Superman. He proceeds into a vault of golden kryptonite, which strips him of his powers for good. Then, as Lois tells it, he wanders out into the frozen wastes surrounding the fortress to die. And the warnings from the 30th century end up correct. Superman is no more, having met his greatest villain, his own capacity for violence and potential as a force of destruction. Following the siege, Lois returns us to the present, where she wraps up her interview with the Daily Planet. Earlier, during a brief interruption in the story, the reader met Lois' husband, Jordan Elliott, who seemed wholly disinterested in the topic of his wife's ex. But after the interviewer leaves, we're treated to a knowing wink from Jordan, as well as some dialogue that implies Superman may have found his happy ending after all. Seeing a superhero lose his powers doesn't feel like a victory at first, though. To celebrate the character, Alan Moore wrote a story that took everything away from Superman. His secret identity, his friends, his villains, his fortress, even his powers. By deconstructing the hero in this way, we're left with one thing that makes Superman who he is: his desire for good. He doesn't tolerate malice, especially in himself. And that idealism, that hope for purity of soul and thought, literally made him one of us. So by disempowering Superman, Alan Moore sought to empower the reader. The potential to be Superman is inside of each of us, but is consistently darkened by our concessions to selfishness, or bitterness, or retribution. When we rise above these corruptions, we regain the power to right the world. I never got Superman. Not until he faced the darkest part of himself and came out the other side looking more like me. In the end, Superman's power came not from his abilities or origin, but his morality. His ability to detect the right and wrong in a world steeped in gray. I finally understood the power our hearts held in the human story. And all it took was believing a man could fly.